Hi, I'm Paul Warren.
And I'm Ryan Klein.
And this is another episode of SEO is Dead and Other Lies. Ryan, how are you doing today?
This is an interesting format. We're not in the same room right now.
I know, this is different. This is the first time we've ever recorded from separate places.
So, our audience knows that we use the top tier of technology to record, which is Audacity, and a couple Yeti mics. And today we were trying to do it, and it just had this really weird crackling noise, and it was very frustrating. And we threw in the towel on that, but not before we decided to go out into the internet and see what there is. So we're actually using Zencastr because I've heard that recommended in the past. And
it was really a blessing in disguise. So we've moved on to better levels of technology now, and we're at the forefront of the podcasting world.
It's only the up and up. We said we were going to make an improvement, and here it is. But in all honesty, if the sound quality is the same, if not a little bit worse, we're probably going to have a lot more guests now because it's way easy to invite people to cast with us.
Enough about that. Why don't we talk a little bit about SEO and what we're talking about tonight? So,
you want to talk about podcasts more? Okay, no problem.
We got a special subject though because it's very timely. It's very relevant to what's happening right now. So, if you are doing SEO over the last week, you probably noticed some kind of update happening. Google made a core update to its algorithm. And we're going to talk about what you should do and what you shouldn't do if you've experienced a decline in traffic after an algorithm update. So this is sort of a how-to guide and a little bit of a guide of like not freaking out and don't do these things. And, because we've seen, I don't know how many major updates that I've seen since I've been doing it. How many do you think you've seen, Ryan, in the past 10 years? Like 5?
Oh, I started 8 years ago, so I've probably seen it almost as many as you, minus like a couple or so. But I've probably seen, I don't know, anywhere between maybe like 12 and 15, and then the ones that I really had to adjust for ultimately was more like half of that, maybe like 4.
Yeah, I think there's been like
5.
4 or 5 major ones that's really affected things. I mean, that they update the algorithm in some degree hundreds of times.
I'm not going to
a year.
Yeah, I'm not going to. Yeah, they update it all the time. I'm not saying when I say 12 to 15, I'm not saying that's how many I think there were. I'm saying there are probably dozens. There's 12, 15. I actually had to take a step back to see what was going on.
If you've experienced some changes to your site from the recent, I guess we'll call it, there's an actual name that Google has that they're calling it. Everyone was calling it Florida 2 update because it was happening at the same time as that conference down here in Florida. What was that conference called again?
Should we have been there?
I could have gone, but I decided against it. But so, you've logged into Google Analytics, this update's happened, and you're like, oh man, I've lost 40% of my traffic. So what do you do? What do you do first, right? So what everyone does first, you go to Google and you start Googling stuff and see like who got hit, like how they got hit, who got benefits from it. You just try and track down. That's the really good thing about the SEO community too, is they share a lot of information when updates happen because like very rarely does Google even tell you that they're making an update, and they're not really going to tell you like what it's going to affect. So you have to go out there and start doing as much research as humanly possible. Go to Blackout World. Those guys like are really on top of it as far as like updates happen for like the public and like sharing information in the forums for that. Where do you go sometimes, Ryan, to check that stuff?
Yeah, I'll definitely, go into with, my circles, we'll chat and be like, hey, did you notice anything that happened? I'll check in with anyone that really has their pulse to it as like a head of doing SEO for any particular organization. I'm like, have you noticed anything particular? Have you had a chance to look at anything in particular? So I start kind of like in my inner circles first. And then, I'll start poking around. Like I'll do a search in like news. So I'll do like Google News and I'll do like algorithm update and kind of see what's going on there. And then I'll check some of my go-to places, maybe like search engine world, or like search engine, the journal, wherever the hell it's called, or anywhere that I can rely on
Yeah.
it to be
So
timely to
here's what
kind of
you want to
get
do, and
an
that's why it's
idea
important we say
of
you want to do
there's
that,
starting to
because
be a
you want to find some
conversation
people
about
in
it.
this who are
Probably
winners that are
start
going to
there.
share kind of case studies, or at least tell you the sites they have that reap some benefits from this. And so that way you can kind of look at the pages they had that had big jumps after something like that, and start kind of analyzing maybe how their content's a little bit different than yours, how how maybe they're doing things differently, maybe how their site's organized. And you really want to just kind of break down and eventually figure out what the basis of the update was. Whether it was like link based, which you don't see a whole lot of those anymore since they did, like the rolling panda update. Um, but you also, you just want to kind of get to the bottom of like what it was really like trying to do, and make sure like if you're spending time updating your site, updating your content, updating your structure, your website, like the speed of it, whatever it is that you're like spending time doing like the right thing. And that's gonna like maybe fix the traffic drop that you had.
Yeah, I mean, one thing definitely. I mean, if you're working in house, for marketing, or you're like me, and you have an agency with a lot of clients that have like their own sets of competitors. I mean, yeah, kind of like piggyback off what you're saying. You always should be aware how all your competition is positioned. You're always checking like the SERPs. You're always kind of like competing with whoever. If you're position 3, you're always keeping an eye on who's 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if 10 jumps from 10 to 6, and then 1 goes from 1 to 4, you're kind of, I mean, I would kind of start to see what all those things have in common. That's what I do pretty often when I see algorithm update. I might even like put in columns. I'm like, well, the person jumped from like 10 to 6
Yeah.
has, they
So
have
one thing though
a lot
that
of content on their
I want to point
homepage that's like
out,
really
that
good.
this is
And
particularly true
the
of
guy
this
that was number
last
1,
update.
he never really had good content on
Sometimes
his homepage. He
like
dropped to 4. So
Google
like, what
changes
can I
things, and there
derive from
isn't
that
really
kind
anything
of
you can do
information?
to get like rankings back for whatever reason. Like you can completely change the content altogether. You can do copy exactly what the sites that are ranking ahead of you are doing, and sometimes once those things are applied, they're just applied for a set amount of time until they like tweak the algorithm again, and then you're going to see everything shift, and no amount of like work is really going to get all out the change. So I guess that sort of leads me into like my first point of what not to do when you see an algorithm update, and that's just like freak out, and start changing everything willy nilly, just hoping like it's going to fix something. Because sometimes you just have to do nothing, and even if you do nothing, they update the algorithm like a couple months later, and then boom, you're back in the number one spot, and you didn't do anything, right? Um,
Yeah, that's the thing that clients never want to hear. The person that you're working for in house, you never want to hear. I mean, if you were saying don't freak out. And I absolutely agree with that, like 100%. Because in the past, a lot of times when a huge update goes out, like they're still doing a lot of tweaks, days afterwards. So a lot of times things bounce back to where they were a week, 2 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks. We'll talk about later what happens after it's like a couple months. But to start, most of the time
yeah.
it does bounce back, and I know that's not
So
what
one thing
people
I
want
would
to
say
hear,
too is
like
like
just to sit
don't
tight and kind
do
of see it
a
through.
massive
But I'd
change
say
to
more than half
everything
the
on your
time,
site,
it kind of
right? So
just
let's say
levels
you're
out
like,
and goes back to
oh,
where it
well,
was.
I
So
needed
there's
to
no
add offer ship
reason
to every
to like
page, and
freak
that's what's going to
out and
fix
do
the
100
problem.
things,
But let's
because
say
if
you
you
spend
know
a bunch of
anything about
time and a bunch
SEO,
of
you know
money
that
and
it could be
whatever,
100 different
and you had
variables. So
like
what are you going to do? Adjust hundred
professional
different things
authors
at
review your
once
content, and then
without
you
any
put like
knowledge?
profiles for them on there or whatever the thing is. Let's say you done all that, and the algorithm changes, and then your traffic and rankings come back, but it wasn't because you did that at all, right? But because you changed your entire website across the board, and you did all that stuff, you're not really going to know if like that was the reason. So I would say if you're going to test things, like test things incrementally, and don't test your entire website with changes you're going to make. Like kind of section it off and like test those things that way, because then you're just not going to develop the knowledge that you get from maybe rankings increases by doing all that. Ooh. Well, I don't want to say don't do anything, right? You don't want to just be sitting around for like people lost traffic for like 6 months for this
When would
last
you
week.
say it's time to
That's
start
a
freaking
long
out?
time. You can't
Because
expect
I
someone
don't know
to
if
sit
you
around
want to
not do
jump
anything.
into that right away, but
So I would
eventually
never say at any
you're
point
going to
like
kind of be like, okay, it's starting.
don't
It seems like
do
it's going to be around for a bit,
don't
or it
just sit
completely
and wait it out.
sticks.
Like try and
What do
fix
you
stuff
say
that
on
you think it
average is
might
the
be.
time where you're
You never
probably
know.
going
You
to have
might
to
be
be more
that site that like
proactive?
maybe a case study that shows other people how to fix this, right? Um, but I would say like at no point should you ever like freak out. Probably be like, oh, it's time to like torch the site. The
Right.
only reason you should like
Uh-huh.
start over, start from scratch, as if you have been like non-manually penalized by Google and you've been like de-indexed, and that's pretty much like the end of it. Like it's time to like close up shop and like start anew. Um, so I would just I don't think it's ever like a good point to like necessarily like freak out. And depending on like the business model that you have, there's a lot of other things that can like pick up or that won't be hurt by like a core organic algorithm update. Like if you're doing local stuff too in there, all of that's just going to be left unread since it's a completely different algorithm than everything else. So there's other alternatives to sort of keep the wheels turning while maybe like the organic portion of it's down. Yeah, definitely listen to Google, with the exception of linking, about on-page stuff. Like for most of the time, Google tells you something you got to take it with a grain of salt, and
Yeah,
you
I
can
mean,
look at the
if you kind of
SERPs,
have a lot of
and
SEO
generally the way
projects
that the
you could be
SERPs
working on
rank
as it is,
are
you may
like
as
the
well do
opposite of
it.
what
So,
Google is
if
telling
there's
you
an
what to
algorithm
do.
update
But
and your
I
traffic
don't agree
drops
with that on
40%
like on-page
and you
stuff,
still
right? To
don't have
like
like schema, you
follow
still
like the
don't
EU
meet
guidelines for
standards,
good
you still
content.
have
That's like everyone should be doing.
thin
Like
content. I
Google's
mean,
pretty
there's
much
your
said,
opportunity
you
just
got
to
to
do
spend
it
more
because
time
regardless if
with your
it's an
content.
algorithm or
You
not,
gotta like
those are just like good
it can't just be
practices
like
to have
fluff,
anyway.
like crap anymore. Like you probably need something that's at least 500 words, and it has to like get to the point, answer the questions of people's queries when they get there. So that's something that like take this time to at least like make sure you're meeting those minimum standards that Google wants you to do for your content at least. And then there's a whole host of technical things that like I don't think any SEO would argue to not do, regardless. Like that Google tells you to do, and schema is like one of those things. And it's not necessarily a ranking factor, but it's just another opportunity for you to like have
Yeah.
another part of your content show up in the SERPs, right? So always take advantage of all those things and make sure you're meeting those guidelines.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah,
Google's been a little bit more transparent with what they're looking for to adjust algorithms than they used to be. I think
should we
two
like
things they're doing is they're
walk
releasing
people
a little
through
bit more
like in
documentation
case
on
you've
what they're
never really
looking
heard
for,
about
and they're not
algorithm
waiting like
updates
3 or 4
and like
months
what they're
later
called?
to
Should we
do
sort
it.
of
So,
like
when
walk
we had
people through a
algorithm
little bit of a
updates
history or
5, 6 years
timeline?
ago, it'd be like very secretive, and it's like, oh,
I got it pulled up on my computer
like
right
we did
now.
something,
Yeah,
like we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna call it
so we can
something
do this, man.
innocuous, like the panda or penguin,
We can
and
break it
then
down
you didn't
into
really
like,
know
oh man, this
exactly
is
what's
going
happening
like
until like 3 or 4 months later. Now
yeah,
I
this is
feel
going
like
well.
there's
This
more
I don't really like this
preparation
way out. This
because
like
it's not like as much a game. They're just trying to maximize user experience. So you know it's all more out there
yeah,
than it used to be. I mean, they're never going to break down the
oh
algorithm by
man,
any
this is
means,
like
and it's mostly related
Fred.
to content,
Oof.
but
All
it
right.
still is a little bit transparent.
I guess we can. Oh, this goes back to like 2003 with the Florida
Well,
update.
you're gonna have to
So
have it pulled up on
this
your computer.
was
Is that
like
something that you already have?
it ended
So why don't you
careers.
go ahead and do it?
It caused people to like not be able to get
Yeah.
paid, particularly in the real
Do
estate
you want to
niche.
share the link with me too?
And it was like called that because it particularly hurt like Florida real estate. Um,
You can send it to me, and then we'll
and,
go
like,
back and forth because
I
another
worked
one
for a
of these
guy that
benefits
like
of doing
got
this
hit by this really
Zencast
bad.
is we can have a
You
screen
know, it
open
was like
to
those
read
websites.
stuff.
And this is sort of before like Zillow was like a big national type of website, right? There was like a bunch of smaller like local websites.
So how far back do we want to
with
go?
real
I don't
estate
know.
stuff listed on it.
We'll go
And
through the first ones very,
he
very quickly
was
because I'm
telling me
sure
how like
it's mostly
he
all
went in
about
one day,
it's all about
this update
spamming and link
happened,
building
and they
paid
lost all
links
the
because that's
traffic.
how
And
crazy
like
it
the
was.
hundreds of realtors that relied on it as a lead source to get their sales, it just disappeared for them. Yeah.
That's funny. Well, so
Yeah. It worked. It worked really well. I mean, it still worked after that, but it just really like hit the websites that were making like a lot of money through the internet through Google. I mean, it's still like there are smaller websites and stuff that there's even sites that continue to do today. Actually, I don't know why, but I see like cloaking and stuff every now and then on sites out there.
oh, that's what happens when e.g. keyword stuffing, using multiple sites under the same brand, invisible text, and hidden links are your main way
Yeah.
of doing SEO.
So
And
there's a bunch of
I suppose that worked
kind
for
of
about
random
5
ones.
years
This is really before
because
like
Google
I mean, I
really kind of
definitely
launched
I was
off
like
in
in
what,
college,
98,
so
99?
I wasn't worried about this. This is the Jaeger update. Yeah, I wasn't like around when this was like happening at all. I honestly never really heard about that one. Um, yeah, that
Yeah,
was
I
that
see
was
it
the
too,
big
but
one.
I
And you
think
know
that
what?
Google,
We'll
it's
just go
like
ahead and
so
skip to this
freaking
one because
amateur
it
that
was
Google
like
like doesn't even
this
care.
one
It's
was huge.
just it's just almost like silly. And I don't really see too many things that actually straight up penalize
Yeah.
websites anymore, unless like your link portfolio is just so out of control
Oh yeah.
that you have no
So
idea what you're doing.
for anyone out there that doesn't know, for the most part, Google links it categorizes their updates into like animal names, right? So there's panda and there's penguin. Panda is something that looks specifically at the content on your website, and then penguin is addressing
No,
backlinks.
I
So
wasn't in
how
the
you're
game
getting
yet until
backlinks, are you
about
buying them, how spammy
the
are
first one
they?
I remember is just straight up
And
this
they kind of
February
work
23rd,
separately of each
2011
other,
Panda update.
but they're
And I'm
always
sure
a black and white
that was
animal.
like a big
And then
old
there
one.
was pigeon, which is sort of a gray animal that focused on local stuff. That was later on.
Well,
I
it's
guess that
because
was
there's so many
5
Panda
years later.
updates.
No,
There's literally it was
4
Panda
years later
updates
when that rolled out.
for over a
Yeah.
year. It actually had it's
So
documented
the
here. There's
first,
a total of 10.
Panda one that came out, that was around 2011. It was like, it was huge. It just like 12% of queries were impacted. And that's just an insane amount of like queries that come in. Yeah. You could just like rate crap. Like you could rank like Squidoo articles at the time on like Web 2.0s, and like you just like spin content. Like content farming was like a big thing at the time, and it was just really easy to
You
like
have the whole history in
put
front
a
of
bunch
you.
of keywords and stuff
It's your
in
cheat
an
sheet.
article and just like spin it a bunch of times and put it on a bunch of different websites and rank for it. It was really like the wild west of SEO. I would say. It was good times. um,
Yeah, it's 12%, and then it's everything you're working on. So it's like
so they
the
were
algorithms will be like,
they
don't
were
worry, it's
doing
only
Panda
5 to
updates for
7%,
like
but it's
a
believe me,
solid.
it's always something that you have your
It
hands
was
on.
like it's like 3
It just
years
is.
basically. Yeah, and then we get into 2012, and the this is great. The exact match domain update happened. So back in the day, like people, and they still kind of do this now, but everyone was about like getting exact match domain like for keywords and stuff, and you still see this for local websites. Uh, yeah, well, I mean, I don't even know if being updated the algorithm,
It's fun. I didn't get to do it enough. I didn't get to venture out and do
but
enough
it,
cool
it wiped
projects,
out like so many, and
unfortunately.
you would see like
But it was still
really
fun.
high authoritative websites, and then maybe like two or three of them on the front page of Google for a term, and then there would be like the other like
Yeah, it
seven
like
things
almost
ranking would
never
just be
ended.
like shitty exact
March
match
14th,
domains,
2013.
.nets,
It's on its
Back
25th.
and back then it was like everyone looked down on .nets. It wasn't like, I mean, people still kind of a little look down on .nets now today. I don't think they care now because you see,
Well, Bing still loves them, so you
yeah,
know,
you see all kinds of like dot
Google
things
is
now.
7 years and
But
counting
at
that
the
it
time
doesn't
they
matter to
weren't.
them.
Yeah, there was just like really the .orgs, .edus, .coms, and then the .nets, and like the hierarchy was like you always want a .edu, right? Because I mean, they're still regulated by the government, so you can't even get those. Um, and then there's like your .govs too. Your .govs were big
Yep.
because it was like trustworthy. Then your .coms, and then your .orgs, and then the way down at the bottom are like the .nets. It was like scraping the bottom of the barrel for domains.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I should do like a survey on how people feel about like
I love
all these new TLDs.
the .coms that have like dashes in them.
Well, even for like a lawyer, I mean, it's like .pro, .legal, .lawyer, .attorney. I wonder how people really feel about it.
criminal-attorney-net.com.
A lot more than it used to. Yeah.
Yeah. .edu. All right, and so and then there's in 2012 the first Penguin update happened. So if you were doing SEO up to this point, and that's what Google came out at 98, Brian. Yeah. Whoa. Oh, all right. Yeah, so Google came out in '98, so people, were doing SEO for like a good bit of time here, and then they were like, "Oh, hey, this thing that everyone knows how to do that like spams Google and allows you to like
the mega hyphenated
what SEO is like figured out, and this is how you make your money. Oh, we're screwing you all over for this." And they launched the Penguin update.
Yeah,
/net.com.
That's the best part.
People were getting like de-index left and right. You were getting like manual penalties. That was like actually, if you got a manual penalty, that was like a good thing because you had someone at least to contact at Google to have it removed. But a lot of other sites were just getting just penalized.
Yeah. Sorry, there's just like
warning
freaking
your search console.
Police cars in the background, so I put on mute for a second.
You had to like crawl through all of your backlinks, and you just like had to remove them, and like you just told Google that you removed them. You contacted those websites. There wasn't even like a way to like disavow them or anything like that. You just had to do that, and I think they manually like reviewed. I don't even know how they like checked all that stuff on their end. There had to be like tens of thousands of websites that were like trying to get re-indexed and stuff after that had happened. I can't even imagine. So yeah, I remember the payday loan update. That was huge. Oh my.
Who even knows? Who
Another-
even knows what kind of manpower they needed from
Another
from
gray animal.
all the people in the
Interesting.
Eastern
A
Hemisphere?
hummingbird. I mean, I guess
to
they
get that
come in
going.
different colors, actually.
Yeah, it must have been nuts. And
Yeah, so
yeah,
pretty much,
I was looking at a couple of
outside of
next
that
ones.
payday loan
Yeah, there was one
which if you were
specifically
in
for
that
payday
specific
loans.
niche, it really
So
like
it
hurt
was
you.
about 6 years ago that it was already
your,
like
your life was just a
if you're
constant
doing
like fear of like
predatory loans or
Penguin
payday loans, porn,
Panda
casino,
updates
debt consolidation.
always
That
like
was
rolling
freaking
out, and like screwing you
Completely
over.
adjusted.
And it was just like every like 4
But
months. I
it's
felt like
interesting
there
to
was
hear
one
this
coming out.
Hummingbird update. September
And
26,
then Pigeon was like the
2013
big one that was like all
affected
new, and everyone was like, "Oh man,
90%
what
of
is this?"
searches.
And that was the very first time
90%. And they
local
also
search
said that
results
they
and
were
stuff were
already getting
affected
ramped
by like.
up to support complex queries such as conversational search, and it says i.e. voice search.
Yes.
So the Hummingbird technically is preparation of voice search, which is actually going to take off today and next year.
I miss it too because you got more chances to be in it and like got clicks and stuff. And man, that was really rough on anyone that was like 4 or below in like the map packs. It was like, well, thanks for the memories. See you later. So then basically you went through all that, and then one thing everyone was freaking out about, it was called the
Is that
mobile
when they
friendly
got rid
update.
of? Is that
I mean,
around the
that's what
time they
Google
got rid
called
of the
it,
seven,
but the
six,
rest of the
five
world
pack, and it
called
was
it the
almost consistently
mobile
3?
geddon.
Yeah, it had to be around there. God, I missed having 7 map results. That was wacky.
So, man, we should have built that up a little bit more. Yeah, Google is
I
like
was like,
everyone has to
where are the
get their
other 4? I don't get
websites
it.
like
There's 3
mobile
now, and there's 3 the
friendly
next day, and
because
there's 3
everything was going
forever.
so quickly to smartphones that Google wasn't ready for it.
Oh, yeah.
The internet wasn't ready for it, and they were like
Oh, such a
forcing all
bummer.
of
Yeah,
these
you
like
could have been
webmasters to
positioned.
like figure
I mean,
this stuff
imagine
out
in
and get
such like
to
a
your
dense
Google
area,
rankings.
even if you
And
had
then
like
the
really
day
good
came.
reviews.
This was actually
I
one
mean,
of the
your
ones where they
4th
told you
position
ahead of
is
time
totally
if it was
fine,
going to happen. Like
and then
Google
it's
said,
gone.
like we're going to
Ugh,
do this
it's
algorithm. That
gross.
never happens. They just change things whenever they want. You figure out later on, and they admit to it. And then the day came, boom, nothing happened at all. A week later, nothing. Months later, nothing.
The
It was
mobile
quite a
gun.
letdown and a lot of work for nothing.
Oh, I would never forgot this. I remember that. How many people were scrambling to go mobile friendly, and you know what happened? Nothing.
Yes, that is also true. So usually when Google tells you ahead of time, it's probably not going to do anything.
But then they had a
That is
next
also an
one,
idea.
May 12th,
And then we can talk about the
2016,
Fred update.
and then Google said, you know what, this is going to increase effect on ranking signal this time around,
Now we're in
and then
March
it also didn't do
2017.
anything.
Yeah, pretty much the thing that like ruined your life was Penguin and Panda
It's
for
kind of fun zone
years. That was
too.
the thing you were worried about, particularly Penguin more than anything else.
Oh, that's a
They
good
didn't
point
start
too.
like
So,
really worrying about
I said earlier how
content
Google's
on your
being like more
site to
transparent
the
and
level they
being
are now
a
until the
little
last
bit more
couple years, I'd
forward
say.
with what they're doing afterwards.
Really the last
The
year and a
emphasis
half.
is they still
Really
say
stepped it up.
stuff
So you really were
afterwards.
just hating Penguin. That was like
When things typically
the
don't
bane of
happen,
your
this is when
existence
they're
as an
saying things
SEO.
before they happen. So it's kind of the rule of thumb that if Google's kind of hyping up something, you can take it with a grain of salt, and if they tell you afterwards, it's probably something you should consider. At least that's what I do.
Yeah. And so then that brings us
Okay,
the
where are we
Maccabees
at? What year is
update.
it?
I don't even remember where that one was. It was so
Okay,
tiny, like no one really knew.
alrighty.
Okay, then there was a broad core update in like 2018. So they kind of went away from calling these things um, Panda and Penguin because what they said that they did is they made Panda and Penguin updates happen in real time. And so what that meant was the algorithm became smart enough to recognize spammy things and tactics and punish, not really punish, but like not reward
Yeah,
ranking values for
because
those
this red
things in
one's
real
like kind of
time.
like,
And so before
because it
like
says,
Google was having to like
we're not going to tell you anything
analyze
about the update, but you should
the
check Google's
SERPs and
webmaster
backend
quality
profiles of
guidelines,
like
which
all
is
this
just
stuff,
like
and they would
be a
make
good
this
webmaster.
tweak to the
It's
algorithm
just
based
like
on like
anything you can
information
imagine is
they had
obvious is
found, and they would
probably
just
in
change
there.
everything all at once to all these sites. So really, like their ability to update that stuff in real time has made It's made things like a little easier, I would say, as like an SEO, as far as expectations on of like huge updates that are going to like screw everything over. Yeah. So that kind of like brings you through everything up to date, and you can go to, I guess, SE, search engine journal, and like look
Yeah,
it
it's
up. They do
interesting.
a
Like
really good
moving
job
forward, and once we get into
categorizing all this stuff.
2018,
Better
these are
than
things
Moz,
that
I'd
I
say.
remember,
Considerably
especially
better.
especially in late August. It's talking about the broad core algorithm update. So it says here, kind of like what happened at the beginning of August. I definitely noticed it towards the end of August. That's kind of when all the eat stuff came out. You referred to it more as medic because that's more like your industry. And then after that, it's been like all this weird unconfirmed quote unquote small things. It's a lot of people saying that they felt something like it was a tremor, like there's about to be an earthquake, but they couldn't really put their finger on it, and it's kind of very vague this year and kind of towards the end of last.
Yeah, that was my industry was specifically hit by that I'm working in. So we just now, as of last week, got we lost over 40% of our traffic over the past 6 months because of that,
Yeah,
and
let's
we
just
got
say
it
it's
all
like
back,
completely. Well, it says in
and then
partnership
some
with Moz,
in the
but this
last
is
month.
SEJ. What's interesting about it is the August 1st, 2018 update, which I do think is one of the biggest updates, definitely from back then to today, is it has 6 pieces of supplemental content
Oh,
that confirms a broad core algorithm. Google says Raiders guidelines is key, offers
I
more
do not
algo
necessarily
updates,
want to
social
get into
media
that
signals,
because
make content more relevant, how to
so my
recover. So there's like a
there's like
ton
smaller
of
local sites that I
supplemental
manage,
content that
and none
goes
of
along
those
with
were
this
hurt by
update
that.
that
They
probably
actually
give
all saw
kind of
huge traffic
a
increases
clear
from it.
picture of
But the
what's
major
kind of happened
website
in the
that the
past.
company that I
What
work
is that,
for
like six
does,
months?
I mean, all the things
Almost
that we
9.
cover that you shouldn't do,
Six.
they definitely did those things. Like, yeah, like rolled back the site immediately, like changing 2 months worth of like updates and stuff because they were freaking out from that. And yeah, one of the things that they didn't really do
What were some
um,
of the
was like
So do you
focus
want
on
to walk
rewriting the
through kind
content at
of
all.
the
They
steps you
just
took?
focused
Like
on having.
you identified that there was some sort of major update.
I know
Did you?
they're
How
like,
long did you wait
okay, we
for?
got to
What
get all these
actions did you
pages medically
take?
reviewed
And why do
because
you
they had
kind
some
of,
like
with
Raiders
a high
guidelines and
level
stuff
of
they came up
confidence,
with, right?
feel like what you
And they're
did
like, we got to do that, but they were like
contributed to gaining
medically
traffic
reviewing
back?
pages that were like really bad, that like you wouldn't even want on the website to begin with. And so it's like, oh, you're paying someone to medically review this like piece of crap page that we want to delete. So and instead of just like taking care of it all then and like saving money and just like fixing the content and then having it medically reviewed, they just went with like the thing that they could do the fastest, which is
Oh,
that.
cool.
What's interesting though is when the traffic came back, it was like they didn't get all the pages and stuff medically
Oh, so
reviewed
they
just
did
because of the
panic
amount of time it took,
essentially.
and like everything jumped back up. So pages that weren't medically reviewed, pages that were medically reviewed, stuff that we had like added some of the content on, stuff that like
It
there were
seems
no
so
content
It
edits
sounds so
and hadn't even been touched.
counterintuitive.
Everything went back
It's so
up. So
funny.
you really have no idea, if any of the stuff that you wasted you spent your money on was like fixed any of it. Yeah, yeah. So if I like looking at it, I would say that like if they had done nothing, it probably would have come back. like the rankings, which is funny. So they just lost. Yeah, that was.
Oh God, and I completely agree with that because some people get off scot free, not doing a damn thing, and some people will like genuinely go through, read all the documentation, do things by the book, and it just stays the same. So at the end of the day, that's I mean,
Yeah, the
it's
takeaways
just
is
one of
just
those things. It's
having gone through
algorithm.
that is like
When
don't
Google
do those
says it's going to affect
things
three
that we're
percent of
talking about.
searches,
Don't
you could
roll your
be
site back immediately to like
complete. Your neighbor could be
undoing
doing the
months
same thing as
of
you, like,
edits and
and then
months of
it
like
happens to you,
3-1
not to
redirects
them.
that were put
It
in
just
and
is
like
how it
all this
works.
stuff, and then try and change all your pages for something at one time. Yeah, just like don't do those things. I guess is really the moral of the story you would take from this.
That is like a bad moral of the story. The moral of your story is we're leading up to how algorithms are getting more and more sophisticated. They're honing in on exactly how they want to tweak the algorithm. They go into like specifics with like content, with links, and with all these webmaster and guidelines. And then your company looks at it, freaks out, does everything that's probably not supposed to do, and then immediate recovery. So yeah, I don't really know what the takeaways are.
I don't know. That is a really really good question. I think some of them are like are such a brand at this point that they just get away with it. I really
Let's we've been talking for a little bit, but let's talk about one thing to wrap it up because that's one thing I want to reemphasize. What bothers me, especially with algorithm updates,
I think that definitely
is
has something to do with it.
one thing that
I think they are very
I'm
authoritative
still
because
like
some of
so
them have been
surprised
around
with
for a
how
really really
much
long time.
how much time and effort Google's putting in these algorithm updates, and then on paper everything they're saying makes sense because it's all at the end of the day it's user experience. So when they say content should be this way, and then you read it, you're like, great, that sounds like a good idea. Why is it that no matter what happens with all these Google algorithm updates, that directories that offer almost no value always beat out websites? Because they offer no content most of the time compared to someone's actual website. So with content being such like a focal point for Google, and they like just freaking, it's like kicking a dead horse with them content, content, content. But meanwhile, these
Yeah,
directories are just a
it's. I
list of a
mean,
bunch of
they would
businesses,
have
and
to
they always
just
outrank multiple
create a different
pages with
algorithm
extremely high quality content.
to
And I
do
think
that.
we both know what the answer is.
Google kind of needs
It's just that
links.
they have way
Like
more
they
links
need it
and they're
to
way more
find
authoritative. And I
content.
think
So
that's about
there's no
it.
way that's going away. Yeah, it never seems to affect
Yeah, I
the
mean,
little guy,
the
the
example
smaller guy out there.
like that I have in mind is
I do tend to agree with
we
you
had that
on that
the
though.
Eat update, and I'm talking about law firms, and law firms tend to do when they take marketing seriously, they take their content very seriously. And when we had an update, we saw a lot of
You're
directories
a little
jump
tired
up
now. Anyways, I think we covered
past
everything. And
websites
guys, we love
for a
hearing. If you
lot
have
of
any
good
questions, be
keywords.
sure to email
So
us at
Justia
seosjunderlies at
is a big one,
gmail.com.
and it used to
We're
be
happy to answer
towards the
some of those
bottom of the
questions,
first
and
page,
hopefully
and
this
they
new
brought in a
format,
lot of
the
SEOs,
new software
and
we're
they
using, we're going to be able
changed
to
their
have a
SEO
lot more
strategy. And I looked
great
on
guests
SEMrush and saw
on,
how many more
and maybe
links they
you'll
got
be
in the
one of
past
them.
2 years, and I 100% think there's a correlation
That
between
would be real
just
cool.
the
And I
links that
think
they
we're going to be
decided
able
to
to
start
do
building, and
some
then
real
securing
time
number one spots, and
podcasts
that's
and answer
it.
people's questions in real time.
So
So Reddit,
it's
wait up, it's going to
we're
happen.
almost like kicking a dead horse too if we're talking about how link building is everything, but I mean, kind of is, and that's I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. I'm Paul Warren. And this has been another episode of
Oh
SEO is
no,
Dead in
I'm
Other
all about
Lives.
links, but
Have a great day.
it's just bizarre when you
All
have
right.
these like updates and these
Bye.
websites are ranking 1, 2, and 3,
Bye.
and all they're listing. Yeah, it's just weird. It just kind of goes against everything they're kind of saying and saying that they're tweaking and putting out the documentation. But well, anyway, that's about all I got on the subject. We ran into that for a good 40 minutes. This is by far the latest podcast that we've done. It's a quarter after 10. Yeah. How cool would that be? Well, well, oh yeah. Well, actually, I mean, we might as well just say, I mean, it's easy to invite people into the podcast. So if you want to be on it, you have something that you'd like to contribute, you want to have a conversation, why don't you email us and be a part of it? If you feel like you'd be a good fit for the convo, why the hell not? And I'm Ryan Klein. Bye. Have a great night. Sleep well. I'm talking to you, Paul. Sleep well, buddy. Bye.